Imagine waking up tomorrow and every shared system on Earth disappeared overnight. No passports, no international trade routes, no global banking. We tend to assume this level of intense global connectivity began with fiber optic cables or the rise of modern nation-states. But for the vast majority of our history, humanity lived in entirely isolated, fragmented pockets. A farmer working the Nile in Egypt lived in a separate reality from a fisherman on the coast of Greece. They shared no laws, spoke different languages, and had no overlapping customs. Because of this deep isolation, human progress hit a geographic wall. An engineering breakthrough or a new medical technique in one valley could take centuries to cross a single mountain range. Then, a handful of violently expanding societies broke this isolation. In their drive to conquer land, they inadvertently collided with distant cultures. While we remember these ancients for their battles, they were actually the original architects of the world's first global information networks. Across the globe, early empires expanded outward at a massive scale. The Persians, the Romans, the Mauryans, and the Han Dynasty stretched their borders across thousands of miles, absorbing millions of people. To hold that territory together, they built physical hardware. They laid down massive intercontinental road networks, paving the connections between continents with stone and engineering. But physical roads were useless for trade if the people traveling on them could not agree on basic rules when they met. So these empires installed an invisible administrative software, the universal order. They introduced common legal codes and standardized measurements to govern millions of diverse citizens. Look at these Roman gold coins. They are perfectly standardized. Enforcing a single currency across a massive territory allowed complete strangers to immediately establish value. By enforcing these shared frameworks, empires forced thousands of vastly different cultures to operate within a single, predictable system. This raises a psychological question. For thousands of years, humans were conditioned to fear anyone outside their own tribe. Why would you suddenly trust a stranger from a foreign kingdom? Our brains seek patterns to reduce cognitive burden. When chaotic customs become a streamlined path, our brains feel safer. A traveling merchant no longer needed to learn hundreds of rules. Friction dropped and trade flowed faster. Once basic trust was established, these networks began transporting new technologies, complex mathematical concepts, and entire religious philosophies across previously closed borders. You can see the evidence of this data flow in objects like this Roman glassware. Fragile luxury goods were transported thousands of miles eastward, surviving the journey because these networks were deeply reliable. By lowering the cognitive burden of interaction, empires created the conditions needed for ideas to travel faster and further than armies ever could. We have to look directly at the paradox of how these networks were built. The connectivity was fueled by brutal conquest, slavery, and cultural destruction. Yet that same concentration of imperial wealth also funded some of the largest scientific and educational centers the ancient world had ever seen. The Library of Celsus stands as proof of immense resources poured into preserving knowledge. History requires holding both of these truths at once. Eventually, these empires collapsed, and their rulers turned to dust. But while the emperors died out, the invisible systems and institutions they engineered did not. Look at the foundations of modern society. The calendar you use, the legal codes governing many nations, and the very structure of academic universities all trace their roots to ancient imperial institutions. Today, digital information crosses the planet in seconds, but fiber optic cables merely accelerated a process that ancient roads and universal laws started thousands of years ago. Ancient empires engineered an interconnected, globalized architecture, a ghost machine we still inhabit today.